Russia and China have collided, not with noise, not with spectacle, not with the theatrics of diplomacy, but with something far more consequential. The impact is already rippling through global power calculations, quietly altering assumptions that once seemed immovable. This is not a public confrontation. There is no televised argument, no formal declaration, no visible rupture. Instead, this is a silent collision between two powers that were widely assumed to be aligned. And when that alignment fractures, even slightly, the global balance shifts. This collision is not ideological, it is structural. For years, Russia and China have presented a united front against Western pressure. Their partnership appeared solid: energy agreements, military coordination, diplomatic backing, and synchronized messaging on global forums. To the outside world, the alignment looked durable, even inevitable. But beneath that surface, both sides were pursuing ambitions that increasingly overlapped within the same strategic spaces. For a time, overlap created synergy. Eventually, overlap became competition. The moment those ambitions stopped reinforcing one another and began to compete, tension ceased to be optional. It became inevitable. That moment has now arrived. At the center of this collision is control. Control over routes, infrastructure, resources, and leverage points that will define power in the coming decade. Russia believes it owns these spaces by geography and history. China believes it earns access through capital, demand, and long-term strategy. These two beliefs can coexist only up to a point. That point has now been crossed. Russia's recent moves to consolidate strategic infrastructure, particularly in regions tied to energy production, transit corridors, and logistical choke points, were not administrative decisions. They were signals, clear ones. These assets, Moscow made clear, are not neutral. They are not open-ended. They are not indefinitely shared. They are Russian. That signal landed directly on China's planning table. Beijing did not expect this degree of rigidity. China has built its global strategy around predictability, long-term agreements, stable access, incremental expansion, and systems that deepen over time rather than contract under pressure. Russia's sudden assertion of exclusive, conservative control disrupts that model. So it injects uncertainty where China assumed continuity. And, China just does not tolerate uncertainty in systems it depends on. This is where alignment turns into friction. China's response has been measured, but honestly, unmistakable. There has been no emotional backlash, no public condemnation. Instead, there have been quiet recalculations, contract reviews, internal reassessments, and strategic adjustments. Beijing is responding analytically, not rhetorically. That analysis has led to one unavoidable conclusion. Russia is no longer just a partner. It is a gatekeeper. Gatekeepers create dependency. And, dependency is unacceptable. This is what makes the collision so significant. Russia and China are not rivals in the traditional sense. They're competitors operating inside a partnership framework. That makes the conflict harder to manage, not easier. Open confrontation would benefit neither side. Silent competition, however, allows pressure to accumulate. And pressure always finds an outlet. The strategic space where this clash is unfolding is, critical to both sides. For Russia, it's about sovereignty and leverage. For China, it's about access and continuity. Neither side can compromise easily without weakening its broader position. And that's why this moment is dangerous. It's not explosive, but it is unstable. Markets have, begun to sense it. Investors who long assumed Russia-China coordination would remain stable are now reassessing risk. Energy flows once treated as secure are being reevaluated. Infrastructure projects are being scrutinized for political exposure. Even minor doubts produce outsized effects when they touch foundational assumptions. The Russia-China partnership was one of those assumptions. Its visible strain sends a signal far beyond the two countries involved. That signal is, honestly, simple and unsettling. Power blocks are less cohesive than they appear. Internal competition exists even among supposed allies, and that competition can disrupt global systems without warning. This is how power balances shift quietly, without headlines, without announcements, but with lasting consequences. Russia's position is, driven by necessity as much as ambition. Sanctions have really narrowed its strategic options. Control over critical assets is one of the few remaining tools Moscow has to maintain leverage. Allowing China unrestricted access would, dilute that leverage. From the Kremlin's perspective, consolidation isn't aggression. It's survival. Sovereignty, once loosened, is honestly difficult to reclaim. China understands this logic, but rejects its implications. Beijing's strategy depends on integration, not exclusion. When partners begin fencing off assets, China's model just breaks down. The response isn't immediate confrontation. Instead, it's diversification. Pressure applied elsewhere. Leverage shifted across other domains, subtle adjustments that are deniable in the short term, but over time, pretty painful. This is where, the collision becomes systemic. China has options. It controls manufacturing capacity. It influences global supply chains. It holds market access that Russia values deeply, especially under sanctions. Any recalibration in these areas wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be framed as retaliation. It would just, simply emerge as market dynamics, regulatory changes, or strategic realignment. Russia knows this. That knowledge, honestly, constrains Moscow's actions. Russia cannot push too far without triggering responses that worsen its position, yet it cannot retreat without appearing weak or surrendering control over assets it considers existential. This is the deadlock. Deadlocks between major powers are inherently unstable. They force decisions under pressure, and, pressure increases the risk of miscalculation. Western capitals are watching closely. For the United States and its allies, a Russia-China collision presents opportunity and risk simultaneously. Opportunity because unified opposition becomes harder to sustain. Risk because instability between two nuclear powers produces unpredictable outcomes. Markets share this ambivalence. Short-term volatility creates profit for some and danger for others. Long-term uncertainty discourages investment and slows growth. Both effects are already visible. Perhaps the most revealing aspect of this collision is how quiet it is. There are no dramatic accusations of betrayal, no public threats, no diplomatic walkouts. Instead, there are adjustments, delays, revisions, small signals that trust is, eroding. Conditional cooperation is fragile. It lasts only until the next shock, and shocks are becoming more frequent. Energy markets, transport corridors, and financial systems are already strained by overlapping crises. A rift between Russia and China adds another layer of uncertainty. Even if contained, it forces recalculation across multiple sectors. That is why analysts are taking this moment seriously. This collision is not about a single deal or one region. It's about the limits of alignment between two powers whose interests converge, but are not identical. Those limits are now being tested in real time. China is learning that Russia prioritizes control over partnership when pressure rises. Russia is learning that China expects reliability even under constrained conditions. Neither lesson is reassuring. The remaining question is whether this collision stays contained or spreads. Contained friction leads to managed competition. Spreading friction leads to systemic instability. So far, both sides are choosing caution. But caution is not resolution.